Yeah, okay, we are dropping off the shipment from Arcturus 4, and I am currently uploading the images I captured of the Mobius Nebula.
Batutwana.
Another one? Come on. We haven't had a break in 2 cycles.
Disa no no, kitadawa.
Yeah, sure, whatever. Oh, hey there. Welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Fatchett. If you've never listened to the podcast before, welcome. If it's your second time listening to the show, thanks for coming back. In addition to providing entertaining and informative photography-related information, I also go on adventures with the crew of the Starship Fibonacci. Right now, the crew and I are starting to feel a little burnt out as we get to the end of the year. It may seem glamorous being intergalactic photographers, entertainers, and smugglers, but the wear and tear can get to you. Speaking of which, on this episode of the podcast, I talk with destination wedding photographer Brandi Potter about the unglamorous side of being a traveling photographer. It's not what social media would lead you to believe it is. All of that after the break. Yeah. Upload the coordinates and we'll be on our way. Are you ready to take your photography business to new heights? Look no further than Pic-Time, the ultimate solution for photographers who demand more. Wow your clients with stunning branded galleries that showcase your work like never before. Let your customers preview selected photos on an array of printed goods. Pic-Time's smart photo store ensures your art shines on everything from canvases to coffee mugs. And take the stress out of marketing with Pic-Time's automation tools that empower you to effortlessly connect with clients, leaving you more time to focus on your craft. And revolutionize your workflow with Pic-Time's cutting-edge AI tool that allows you to search and sort images effortlessly, saving you time and ensuring you find that perfect shot in seconds. And that helps you strengthen vendor relationships with precision, curate vendor galleries, setting them just the right images, and enhancing your professional connections. Worried about switching hosts? Fear not. The expert staff at Pic-Time can seamlessly migrate your photos, making the transition smooth and stress-free. So are you ready to transform your photography experience? Visit nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/Pic-Time today and discover a world where creativity meets efficiency. Hey photographers, are you tired of using the same stale poses with your clients, resulting in stiff and unnatural photos? Consider using Let's Be Real prompts instead. Prompts are not just a list of poses. They're designed to help you create a more engaging, fun environment for your photo subjects, resulting in more natural and authentic images. With the Nerdy Photographer's Let's Be Real prompts, you'll have a unique set of prompts for couples, weddings, families, and individuals, ensuring that you never run out of ideas. Prompts are particularly helpful for clients who are nervous or self-conscious about having their picture taken. By giving them something else to focus on, they can become more relaxed and their reactions will be more authentic and less guarded. Using Let's Be Real prompts will not only help you create more fresh and dynamic images, but it will also increase your confidence and your client's confidence in you. You'll be able to handle difficult situations and subjects with ease, resulting in more satisfied clients and a stronger photography business. So start using Let's Be Real prompts from the Nerdy Photographer today and elevate your photography to the next level. Go to nerdyphotographer.com and go to our store, or click the link in the episode notes and get started creating authentic, engaging images today. Hello, and welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Fatchett, and I'm here today with amazing destination traveling wedding photographer Brandi Potter. Brandi, welcome very much. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on.
It's awesome having you here. We've been trying to get around to doing this for a while. Finally making it happen. And we're going to start with a dice breaker, and it's a 4. What's the worst piece of business or photography advice you've ever received?
Smile more.
Oh. I think that's just across the board bad advice.
I told you they'll be loud. It's
fine, people. Folks who are listening, I mean, I don't care. Brandi has a lot of dogs and they're awesome and they might bark a little bit while we're talking. I personally, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah. The neighbor must be outside because how dare they?
How dare there be a neighbor in their own yard?
Right? We're going to have to buy a house in the woods. So
Yeah, I don't think that would work for my dog either. If any animals approach the property, she's like, "Hey, what's going on? What are you doing?"
that's how these dogs are. So
It's not an issue for me. I think telling people to smile more is not is not good advice in any
I
circumstance.
you know what? I'm told that a lot during receptions, especially by drunk men. Like maybe your photos would be better if you smiled more. Like, do you want me to hit you with the camera or what?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a number of female second shooters who work with me and still do. Um, and the amount of times that I've heard similar or worse things said to them and come over and be like, "Hey, dude, why don't you shut the fuck up?" And
Yeah.
this is not the place. Nowhere's the place. Keep that in your head and don't say it.
Yeah. I agree.
So you are, I mean, I'm going to say destination wedding photographer. You travel a lot.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of photographers out there who would think that's a very glamorous lifestyle to live. I certainly had a period of time where I thought like, it'd be really amazing traveling all over to shoot weddings. And then I did it for a little while and I was like, nope, I think I'm going to stay home. What are your thoughts on the perception of being a destination wedding photographer and that being a glamorous lifestyle?
Sorry, they started like really barking just now, so I muted myself. I think it was really fun for me for the first like year or two. It was very exciting because I grew up in a town where like people don't travel. And so it was just so exciting for me to be able to do that and do things that I never thought I would be able to do. But then when reality like set in, and like even now, because I travel for literally every single wedding, maybe one or two a year are in Kentucky, but that's it, out of like 30. So even now, I'm just like, I'm exhausted. I'm so tired. And it's like the older you get, the more it takes it out of you. Jupiter, stop. Uh, it just takes it out of you, and like being in airports all the time and like being away, like I have missed so many things I with my friends or like my nieces and nephews that I wish I wouldn't have missed, that I have to miss because of weddings now because I book so far out,
Right.
and so I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of
What's
those
happening.
it's one of those things that, I've been doing this for 25 years, just like mostly local weddings. And it's like, you miss out on so much stuff because like, well, everybody's like, we're getting together on Saturday. And I'm like, well, I'm working. And there's like a whole joke amongst, our friends, my wife will commonly be asked what to bring to an event and they'll say, bring Casey. And she's like, sorry, he's unavailable this weekend. And yeah, it's been many years of that, and it does get more difficult the older you get. Not only like the physical wear and tear, but the kind of emotionally. You're like sitting there going like, why am I giving so much of my life to this? And that's why we start charging more money,
Yeah.
because there's a
And
premium.
I have cried in many airports. I've like found out my grandmother died while I was in an airport. It's just like, and then I had to shoot a wedding before going to her funeral. So it was just like there's so much that people don't think about when they before they get into destinations, and they're not going to think about that until it happens to them.
Right.
And I think I think a lot of photographers over glamorize the destination bit, and it is so amazing. It's like it is such an amazing job, and I cannot complain because all of my clients are literally perfect angels, and like the travel bit and all that stuff is not their doing.
Right.
Um, like the wedding days are always great, but like the getting there and getting home is exhausting.
Yeah, it's tiring. It's just that you're spending a lot of time and energy just getting from place to place, and there's so much stress involved with that travel. Like I always try to arrive when I'm doing a destination wedding. I want to get there the day before
Yeah.
because you never know what's going to happen with air travel or like something happens. I had um, the airline I was traveling on go out of business. Like it just or they shut down technically for safety reasons.
Yeah.
This is many years ago, and I was like, what am I supposed to do now? I have to find a way on another plane to get to this wedding. And I just thought to myself after that, I was like, I don't know if I want to keep putting myself under that kind
Keep
of
doing this.
pressure.
My rule of thumb is if I can drive somewhere within like 10 to 12 hours, I will fly in the first flight of the day before the wedding. If I cannot, if it's longer than 10 to 12 hours, I will fly in 2 days before the wedding because I have had to drive before, um, like last minute because flight delays.
Right.
So that just kind of like when I'm doing stuff on the other side of the country, that means I'm gone for like 4 days
Yep.
out of the week. So
It's a lot.
versus like 36 hours.
Right. It's a lot. It's a lot of, I mean, I've done stuff. I mean, I'm on the East Coast and, I've done stuff on the West Coast and it's just like, okay, I'm going to be gone for a week
Yeah.
because I was doing like the day before, like the rehearsal the day before and the like brunch the day after. And so now I'm gone for 7 days, pretty much. Cause it's like, there's no way I can, trust that my flight's going to get out on time.
Yeah. So it's a lot to think about. And I think that's why a lot of people miss their flights because they're like, they don't put in the safety structures either to be gone longer for destination weddings.
You have to have a system. And I
Yeah,
guess
you do.
some people have good systems for that sort of thing. And I'm sure you do. I am an anxious person, so I overplan everything. So I feel like I do, but I think that there are people who are just getting into it who don't understand that you really need to lock that side of things in. Now I have to say, I came across your work. I think it's been 4 or 5 years ago now, and I was just blown away. I mean,
Thank you.
it really resonated with me. It's super visceral. It's just like gives me all sorts of feelings, and it's really like I think what made it stick out to me was the way in which you marketed yourself. And it was sort of like you don't have to be like the photographer. You don't have to hire the photographer that your mom wanted you to hire. And that there's like sort of my own style like is a very much like, this is about you, yourself, and like we're going to capture who you are. And so I think that particularly stuck out to me as being amazing, but it just like your style of marketing like really fits your images and your style. And I think that is something that a lot of photographers could benefit from doing some introspection and thinking about like how to promote their style of photography and what is unique about them in a way that isn't the same as every other photographer out there. So what was kind of your process of getting there?
So you asked me the worst advice. Some of the best advice I was given in early career was to look around me, look at my competition, see what they're doing, and do the opposite. And so I've stuck with that since like 2013. So I look at people who are marketing themselves as just like lovers of light and we love love. Like I don't necessarily love all the time. But I think people's individual needs should be seen more than just like, oh, we're gonna push you all to be lovey-dovey all day. Because that's not what my work is about. And that's not what half of our work is about, but that's the marketing that people are doing. So sorry, I'm out of breath because pregnant, but
Yes, just so our listeners know, Brandi is very pregnant at the moment, which also has been, if you follow her on social media, especially Threads, is a part of the travel woes.
it's very hard. It's much harder pregnant to travel the way I do. But a lot of people just like they borrow marketing from every other person around them, and they don't put their individual like needs or their selves or their clients like in their marketing, which I think is a huge disservice for themselves. So, on Threads, we've been seeing a lot of people say that their bookings are down, like they're not getting inquiries, and this is one of the reasons why, because everyone's starting to bleed together.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a saturated market to begin with,
yeah,
and when everybody sounds the same, there's no way for
it,
you to stand apart from like that noise.
there's no way to stand apart, and it makes it so much harder for people, especially when they are trying to compete with someone whose work looks exactly the same. Like, how do you stand out from that? You have to figure out how to take like your personality and put it into your marketing versus just trying to copy what they do because they're successful.
Right. And I think
Yeah.
that also falls into I guess all the people who become marketing gurus after 5 years in the business, and they're like, I'm going to teach you how to be fully booked and so everyone has the same, like, people are buying up these programs of like how to market themselves. And, it's just like there's a cottage industry in the photography business of selling your program on how, like, marketing, and everybody like then does that for a little while and they go like, oh, I can just sell the same program basically and kind of make it my own. But like if that worked so much, one of the things that always gets me is like, if you are so good at this,
Yeah. Why aren't
why?
you shooting full time?
Right. Yeah. Like, why aren't you doing, are you fully booked all the way? Oh, um,
Because I will say education can
it's
sometimes
important.
be a lot harder than just shooting. So, like, if you are as good at marketing as you say you are, why are you spending this much time trying to get, you know, people to spend $3,000 on a subpar marketing?
Right. Yeah. And I think education is extremely important, but like you need to be a little skeptical
Yeah.
about who you choose to receive an education from. Um, but like I said, your marketing, I think, is one of the examples I would use if I were teaching a class or a course on like how to find your ideal client.
Yeah.
I think that you've nailed it because you're very much about like, it doesn't have to be traditional. You make your own traditions. This is who I am as a photographer, and your style of photography is very much like, I can look at if I see one of your photos, I know it's your photo. Like it's just like you have a very distinct style. Um, it's I don't want to call it dark and moody because I don't
But
like the term dark and moody because I think a lot of people
they overuse it.
they use light and airy and dark and moody as a way to cover up for bad photography.
Yes.
If I underexposed, so I'm going to be dark and moody. Or I overexposed, I'm going to be light and airy. But you have a very moody, gothic romance. That's what it speaks to me in as far as your style.
That's just kind of who I am as a person too. So everything I do in my life, I want it to be super authentic. Otherwise, I'm not going to be. I hate the word authentic too because of what the photo world has done to it.
It used to be one of my
I,
keywords. Not anymore.
I want everything to feel like me as well. Like it needs to feel like our clients, but it also needs to feel like us, or we're not gonna last long term. And that's something I've always like. You can see a shift in my work from like through the years of how my depression and anxiety and how everything's affected me because of the way I shoot and edit. So if you like, you can't, because I have a new website, you can't like go back and look at old blog posts anymore. But if you were to like get in my Pic-Time and just like scroll, you can like see the difference in like my mood while editing and shooting. Which is it's really strange for me to look back on now, to see like how grief affected me so much over the years.
Yeah, I mean, it trust me, I lost both my parents in 2020, and it was we did a whole episode on it. How creativity can you feel like you're stifled by the grief, but also being creative can be a path through it.
Yeah.
But it's this weird tightrope to walk, and it can definitely have a huge impact on your artistic style.
Yeah.
You also shoot a lot of film.
I haven't really shot film this year though. I did a lot of film last year.
Okay.
But I haven't really done it this year, and I don't know why. Like, I guess because I still have rolls of film from my December retreat last year that I have like 10 rolls of film I still haven't gotten developed from last December. And that's probably why I haven't done it this year, because I'm overwhelmed and I don't want to right now.
Well, because you're pregnant and you're doing a lot of other things, and it's stressful.
Yeah, and I've basically been pregnant like since my season started. So it's just like I don't want to carry the extra weight. I don't want to worry about the film. But I do shoot a lot of film normally.
I'm sure it's also, I was going to ask, because like traveling with film is another headache to consider.
I don't think it's that bad. I just throw all my film into a baggie, have them hand check it, and go on. No one's really given me lip about it. In the United States, TSA will hand check your film, but I haven't had issues flying with film, and I've never, even when I've put my film through the scanner, I've never had issues with it like messing up. So it's not that bad.
I think, okay. I'm just curious, because I mean, like, I love to shoot film, but I don't enjoy. I started shooting weddings on film. I personally don't enjoy shooting weddings on film, and it's like a premium that people can ask me to do if they want. But generally, I'm not like going to be like, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to include film with this, just generally, because it's I when it was my only thing, it was like the only thing I had, and I was carrying like 3 camera bodies to weddings and shooting and like hoping like, oh God, like I hope these came out, and I hope I wound this correctly. It was just like
normally for weddings, I normally only do like 1 roll of film anyways, but then that adds like the third body that I have to carry, and I just don't want the extra weight this year.
Yeah. I'm curious.
Probably start back next year.
No, this is just out of curiosity. What do you normally shoot? If you're like, what is your film body that you're shooting?
I have a Canon 1V, because then I can use my old EF lenses on it. And you can shoot in auto. I'm really lazy. I'm a really lazy film shooter. I put my film camera in auto so I don't have to think about it, and then just make sure my film matches for the light.
I've got a Canon Elan 7E that I have as well, and I've got my like AE1 here, and I've got I love the Elan because I can use all of my EF lenses.
Yeah,
on that it's just same thing. It's a depends on what people want from film. They're like, oh, I want medium format. I'm like, okay. I
am not about to pack my medium format cameras to a wedding, because I have like a RB 6x7, which is like 20 pounds, and then a giant 645. I'm not taking that.
Yeah, I've got my mummy
on a plane.
It's just like
no.
Yeah. That's only for local stuff.
Or if I'm driving to the wedding.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm not bringing a lot of lenses for that. I'm just bringing one, and we're gonna do some portraits, and that's it. I'm not shooting a whole bunch of stuff with that. But I just love the feel of film, and I think that your images, I guess I can't tell which are film. Like you're processing, however you're like processing your images, you can't tell which are film. And to me, looking at it, like I've looked at a lot of your pictures, Brandi, that they have a very film look to them, which is all those people who are like, I want to emulate film with my digital. Like you've nailed it. And I'm sorry, I'm just like being like a cheerleader right now, but like
No, you're fine. So I'll tell you, see if you can pick it out. One of the photos I sent you last night for the blog post is film. The others are digital. So it's only one of them.
Only one of them's film.
Yep.
Okay. I'm looking at them right now. I'm wondering if it's like the whatever the second one is. I can't see it in my email. All right, let's open this again. Is it where is this? Okay, it's the second one. All white couple.
What?
They're both wearing white.
Yes, in front of the castle.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the film one. Good boy. Quit.
I can only tell that because of the grain on the face. That's because
and that photo's a little out of focus too. So
there's something that when it comes to shooting film, I think that people who do it regularly understand like that whole trend that was going around of like out of focus pictures.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't understand why they were feeling like this is, it's nostalgic for something. I was like, yeah, it is. It's nostalgic because when you're shooting film, you can't change your film speed. And you generally, like some of these older cameras, you don't go to more than 1,000th of a second, like on the shutter. And, there's motion blur and it's hard to manually focus things. And sometimes the people are moving too fast or they moved out of your depth of field and whatever. And that's how that, if you want to intentionally create something that is, has that feeling of being out of focus and intention's a huge thing for me.
I think if my thinking is, I shoot like mirrorless now. So I still do not care if some of my photos are soft. Because if you look back, like generations of photographers, if you look back at old album covers, if you look back at old movie posters, if you look back at like any sort of photo from before digital was readily available, most of those photos are very soft.
Yeah.
And people still love them. So in my mind, it doesn't have to be super crisp to tell a story or to make people feel something. So if I really like a photo and it's like soft or like out of focus in a good way, then I still include it in the gallery.
Yeah, that's why I have problems with, I've always said emotional weight trumps technical perfection when it comes to, especially wedding photos.
I think that's another thing a lot of people just like, they forget because they're just like wrapped up in trying to be like everyone else.
I had I'm pretty sure it was they were posting anonymously on my blog in responses, but they were like, you still don't know how to shoot tack sharp. And I know it was a former second shooter who I had like huge problems with, who was always like very like everything's got to be super sharp. And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be.
It does not have.
It doesn't have to be. And also, like, like, people value these pictures for different reasons. Like if people are dancing, like I have some beautiful photos that I love that I took, 15, 20 years ago that I still look at and like am really emotionally attached to, but they are not sharp. They're not even close to it.
A lot of my award-winning images are soft. So,
yeah,
I mean, what's that tell you?
one of my like most well-known images is a photo of like the whole wedding party. I could refer to it as the friends photo because they're like all walking together and it's like down a street in New York and there's a car that is like turned down the street behind them and there's a light, like sort of like a rim light around them. And it's like, if you blow it up, yeah, it's real soft along the edges. Some people's like faces are like slightly blurry because I'm like shooting at a, very wide aperture and a low shutter speed. But yeah, it's a beautiful photo. Like you don't have to be, everything doesn't have to be tack sharp. I don't, it's not necessary.
It really isn't.
Well, I'm glad we agree on that. I'm really like, again, it's something that I see in your pictures that really speaks to me as a consumer of art, not just somebody who's a wedding photographer, that
Mhm.
there's more to this than I am just trying to be a technical photographer.
I think there's a lot to be said about learning technique, learning how to be a technical photographer. But I think there's also a lot to be said about using that knowledge to create different things
Create what
that aren't technically perfect.
right. Create what speaks to you, what speaks
Yeah.
to your clients. It doesn't have to always fit into that mold. You have to know the
Yes.
rules to break them. But yeah, you have to like I said, in describing like film photography and why things are out of focus. Like if
Yeah.
you can make that happen, you can make those similar images with your mirrorless camera if you know what the things that are going on that are creating that look in those old photos, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I can make this happen with my mirrorless camera in the same way.
I had troubles. I will say when I first got my mirrorless cameras, I did have it was a little bit of a learning curve for me because I was shooting on Mark threes for so long of how to get my photos to not look like so crisp and digital. So it took me about a month of shooting to figure it out. But now I can go back and forth really quickly depending on what I'm shooting
What are you
at the
shooting
moment.
with now? R5 or
I have a R5 and R6.
yeah, I have an R5. One thing I'm gonna try to get into next year is that I've found an adapter for all these
Ooh,
old like film lenses, and it requires manual focusing. But it's I want to take that out and get see what kind of character I get in my images by using like my old uh, F series lenses.
I actually really love manual focus lenses. I have a 90 tilt shift, I have a 45 tilt shift that obviously they have to go in the adapter for the mirrorless. And then I just got a Petzl lens um, for that's RF
Hmm.
mount. So I really enjoy shooting manual focus. And
Yeah,
sometimes I do entire sessions on a manual focus lens, which is a nice little challenge.
yeah, and it's I mean the thing that I find you really think a lot more when you have to like and I think this is one of those things that people talk about. Well, I love the process of shooting film. It slows everything down for me.
No.
Um, they always say that, but I mean, for me, I find that it's like I am more thoughtful when I'm shooting film because I'm thinking about how many exposures I have, and I have to be more cognizant of of focusing. But like
Yeah.
also the same sort of thing. It's like I take lots of photos of my dog, working on a project with her and some expired film, and you're not gonna like get her in
Yeah.
focus unless she's sitting absolutely still.
I'm actually looking to find a smaller 120 medium format camera now for the baby
Hmm.
because obviously I don't want to they're up on a shelf, they're pretty high, but I don't want to lug my giant medium format cameras around the house to
Right.
photograph the baby. But most of my photos of him will probably be film, just so it's I don't know. I like the feel of film way more for my walls.
Yeah. It's
So
just and it's a matter of personal taste. It depends on the type of photo, like or whatever it is. But yeah, I might have some leads on some small
that would be
medium
great.
format for you. I will email those to you or message them to you on
Please.
Instagram. Um, it's just a different feeling. It's very funny. There's another interview I was doing for the podcast, and we were talking about um, the feeling of film and why we like it. And one of my, I'm came from a science background. I originally started out as a physics major, and then I shifted to journalism and theater. But the just the thought of that the photons and the light particles that bounced off of that this romantic notion of
Mhm.
that bounced off of my subject and came through my lens and caused some sort of reaction with the film, like there's that energy that coming off of my subject touched that film, and there's just like that romantic nature of like, that is why like film means more to me and has a more of a I don't know, weight to it.
I think that's why I know a lot of my clients really like it when I shoot film, and I think that's why, because it feels so nostalgic. It feels like our childhoods, because we didn't have like digital cameras until like I was in middle school ish. Like that's when they kind of started coming out for mainstream. Oh my God, Meatloaf. They're all
The
getting
dog. I see the dogs are all interested and want to be on camera now.
Yeah, they do this, but I think that's why a lot
That's a husky.
huskies.
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of our clients like the feeling of film, especially millennial clients or like older Gen Z clients, because they remember like being a kid and having our favorite photos of ourselves or whoever was in our life. Those are all film from back then.
Right. And it's also, it gets printed.
Yeah,
like
it gets printed.
I can't like say enough about like actually like print your stuff, print your photos, print.
Yeah.
It's like have a physical. That's the only way to future proof your photos, because in 100 years nobody's going to go through your hard drive.
Yeah.
Or look up your cloud account
or the internet's going to crash and they're going to have to rebuild it, or
your account is going to be closed because you passed away. It's like nobody after you're gone, nobody's going through your cloud account and looking at your photos and print them out. Like and I am not saying I am the best at doing this myself, but like I am getting better at it. And that whole thing, I feel like it's been like floating in our conversation, the whole grieving thing. And it's just like that's one of the ways in which dealing with grief of having, I went through boxes and boxes of photos from at my parents' house.
Yeah.
Like I got to see people who I'd never seen before. Like they just only heard stories about from them, that were, like they're my dad's biological mother who I'd never met. I finally like saw a bunch of pictures of her and I was like, this is crazy. It was just like, especially because we kind of look alike.
I'm also really bad at printing films. Like, I normally do vacation in the winter and like take a bunch of landscape stuff, and I've yet to print any of those out for myself. And we've been talking about printing a bunch of my photos and stuff. And then my studio mate, we move into our studio on Friday. She asked me today, she was like, should we print some of our work to hang on the walls? It's like, that sounds, we should, but I don't know if I'll actually do it.
This is twofold. I'm like, my wife always says like, we go on vacations, we'll go to these beautiful places and I'll take pictures and I'll do some landscapes and, do some pictures of us on landscapes or whatever and do things. Whatever. She's like, I don't see those images. I have not seen them. Like we've been together for 18 years. And she's like, I maybe see like 2 or 3 from each trip where all the rest of the photos. And I'd like to see the rest of those images. And I'm like, oh, this is like my project for this winter is, cataloging them and exporting them all to some Pic-Time galleries so that, she can see them and we can order prints of things that we want to put up. But also it's the, where was I going? The train of thought has derailed. When I had a physical studio space, I had the same problem because I was like, okay, on the other side of the room, like this one wall was completely done up by one of my studio mates, had just like a wall of prints. Yeah. And I'm coming in there and I'm like, I can't like not have my prints up somewhere because people are going to come in here, are going to see all of his photos and they're going to be like, are those yours? And I'm like, nope. And there's none of mine in here. So I came up with like doing it a different, like I did mine a different way, but it was like the most nerve-wracking process of like sitting there going like, what photos am I going to print? Which ones are good enough to like have on the wall and to print out? And now I actually have them all. They're in a pile in the back of my office right now, because I haven't hung them up anywhere, like in my office at home. But I'm just like looking at those going like, I like those photos. Why don't I look at them? I'd like to have them up somewhere, but I do have like a few of my favorite photos like printed up and hanging on the wall, like on the where I can see them during the day. And it makes me feel better. I don't know what it is. It actually like looking at those images and going like, yeah, that was pretty. That's a pretty awesome photo.
Like I took that.
Yeah.
That is, yeah. I have
that.
so many I want to print, and like I would hang my wedding photos I've taken in my own house. So there's so many I want to print for the studio, but it's just like, when am I going to have the time to do it? Yeah.
It feels like there's like 100 million projects, and I'm sure you're feeling that way because of the baby.
Yeah.
You're like, I've got other things to think about right now. Like I don't have the energy physically.
That might be a maternity leave thing that I do.
Yeah. It's a good project to have. Yeah. When the baby's sleeping. Or will you be sleeping?
I'll be taking a shower.
So there's another thing you said recently that really resonated with me, which was in regards to prompting versus posing people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very funny because I just shot a wedding on Friday where this came up, where there's a group of like 30 family members, and they were like, we don't really want posed photos. We just kind of want like some candid photos of like 30 of us together. I'm like, that doesn't happen.
That does not happen.
You can't get like a group of people together. Like candid images. I'm sure that you have your own way of going about this. What I tell people is, when it comes to the two of you, yes, we can do that. We can prompt you. We can give you things to do, and it can seem very candid and very natural, and everything's wonderful. But when we get into a group of people, there's only so much that we can do to make this candid-ish.
Yeah, so that's one of my biggest pet peeves in the industry. It's the same thing as the word authentic. People have taken candid and documentary and kind of like watered it down so much that people don't actually know what it means, and they don't realize that any sort of portrait is not candid or documentary. It is prompted, it is posed. We have a hand in that. It's not just like us walking up to a perfectly staged group of people laughing. And taking a photo, because that does not happen. People don't naturally stand correctly in those situations.
Right. And you can only do so much. Like it's really like, there's, I like to say,
I can talk about this for hours.
Yeah. It's one of those things that's like very, like what I tell people is I pose and I prompt and not pose, but prompting, what I will tell you is like, hey, move your arm just a little bit. Like, I'm just going to guide you a little bit more. Like, oh, like this makes a better image. I'm going to, have you lift your arm or move slightly to your right or whatever. Those things make a better image, but that's not candid.
I've had not so many. I've had several, more than I should, clients or potential clients email me this year asking me about only having like candid family photos or only candid wedding party photos. Boys, can y'all be nice? I feel like I already have children.
You do. It's the fur babies.
And I'm just like, we can have the same feel of candid, but we still have to have time to do those. Because hold on. The Huskies are brothers, and Jupiter growls at Gemini and then cleans his ears, so it's so weird. But I had one client in particular tell me that they wanted to cut out portrait time because they just wanted candid. Because they just wanted candid feeling photos with their people. I was like, all of you are not going to be in the same room standing correctly, so you cannot cut that portrait time. We can make it feel like candid. We can make it fun. but it's not you're not going to get the photos that you want that way. And I had them go through my Instagram feed and send me photos that they really liked that they thought were candid, and I explained to them
What
which
happened?
ones were actually candid and documentary and which ones were prompted and posed, and like how we do that.
Yeah, because it's like you're not gonna, like you said, you're not gonna get everybody in the room at the same time,
Yeah,
and we need time to make you feel natural and
yeah,
make it look like it's just a this just happened. We're just in this space together,
yeah.
and
We just happen to be standing in a perfect line,
right,
smiling at each
yeah,
other.
yeah, and we're all like having a good time because that's also like the sort of making people comfortable enough
Yeah,
that they behave naturally and it looks candid takes time. You
yeah.
don't just walk up to them and be like, everybody act natural, because immediately they all go, what?
Or they like turn towards you with like this big weird grin on their face. Like that's
yeah.
not what I said.
Yeah, I'm familiar. It's they all sort of like get the wide
Yeah,
eyes and like they look like a deer in the headlights and they're like, eh, this looks
yeah,
natural, right? Which is why I tell people like that the moment that you know you're having your photo taken, your face is going to change.
yeah,
So part of the way in which we make you look natural is to make you not think about having your picture taken. And that has there's a lot of ways of doing that. Um, I don't know what your prompting process is, but like mine involves questionnaires with people to like kind of get a sense of who they are, what they laugh at, what they what makes them smile, what makes them feel lovey-dovey, and what their family friend dynamics are, so
yeah,
I can know how to act with those people to make them all like, we're going to get a big belly laugh out of people. It's going to take something very specific, and I have
yeah.
to prepare for that. Um,
I don't send out questionnaires for that. I follow my clients on social media. I see what they're posting. I see how they're posing with their friends.
hmm,
I see what they post in their stories. And then I can like it helps it helps my brain anyways, like determine how they're going to interact with the camera, what they're going to like when I take photos of them, like what angles they like. And then, like, when I get their day of, I will spend like 10 to 15 minutes just watching them interact with people to see how they're touching each other, to see how they're moving together, just so the photos look more natural than they could.
right. Well, it's observation.
Yeah.
In both
It,
cases, it's just like it's observing
it's,
people,
such,
and
it's such an important skill to have in this job.
yeah, and I think it gets lost. I think it would be obvious. Um, there's a movie I love called Zero Effect with Bill Pullman, and he
Mhm.
refers to like uh, the two most important skills in being a private detective are objectivity and observation. I think it's actually subjectivity and observation in wedding photography. Like you have to look for the emotion, but you have to observe and look for where the feeling
Yeah.
is. You have to find the feeling, and that's what we're there to capture. Um, unless you're posing everything, which I don't.
And then you also have to be able to read a room and know when it's appropriate to capture that and
Right,
when you need to step out of the way for a minute
right.
or give them
When
space. Um, and I think that's where like a lot of the top photographers differ from people that have been doing this for a long time but aren't quite there yet, because the top photographers are like really good at observation and reading the room.
yeah, knowing what's going on with the people who are there, whether it's your clients, whether it's their family, and knowing when to insert yourself in some way
Yeah.
and when to like completely leave it alone and when to not be there at all.
Yeah, and when to step away and
Yeah.
tell someone that's not the main people, "Hey, grab me in, like, 5 minutes if things settle down."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I always compare wedding days to roller coasters.
yeah,
And it's like, maybe there's a part of the roller coaster I'm not meant to be on.
Be part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is just for somebody else. And as much as I love those moments where people go like, oh, they look at a picture and say like, oh, I didn't even know you were there for that. You have to know when it's appropriate.
You really do have to know when it's appropriate to take those, because one of my recent weddings, the bride was doing a first look with her dad. She did not want it photographed. But it was going to be set up and all that stuff. And I was going to help set it up and then just leave the room. He came in too early. And while we were still getting her ready. And so that happened. And I took 2 photos and then I put my camera down. I was like, he's here. I'm going to take one just in case. And then I'm not going to take any more until he leaves. So just listening to our clients and knowing what's appropriate and what's not is such a big thing. Because I know so many photographers that I've encountered over the years that would have just been firing off that entire time.
Or telling them that I'm going to be doing this because this is what, and you and I have engaged with people on threads who are like, why do people want their photos to stay private? I need to use them for my social media.
That, I mean, I literally just did an engagement session for one of my clients. They're getting married eventually. And I'm not going to say who it is because they don't want the engagement photos posted yet. Right. And he is kind of a big deal in certain circles. And that is, I'm respecting that. When most people would be like, no, I'm posting them. I have the release of my contract. She asked me to wait to post them. And I was like, this is your call. If you want them private, they can be private.
Yeah. I
don't have to put them on my social media to get clients.
Right. I have an entire thing in my contracts that are like, hey, do you want me to share anything? Yeah. If you're okay with me sharing things, do you want to approve of the images first? What do you want to be on a certain schedule? There's a whole thing of it's like you said, listening to your clients, which I think a lot of people are bad at because I think they don't realize how much of a customer service job this is.
I think this is one of the reasons why I book such high-end clients now is because I'm taking the time to listen to what they want and listen to what they need. And I work with them to make all these things happen for them. And I'm not pushing them to be posted online. My wedding Saturday, so unique, so cool. And I asked during the day, I was like, hey, do you even want these shared with people? It would be great for us to the vendors to share them, but I don't have to share them with people if you don't want them shared. And so we had that conversation day of the wedding while we had downtime. And so I'm able to share some of them, but there are particular portraits that we took throughout the day that they want to keep private, which is absolutely fine.
Yeah. I mean, people have, and the thing I always say when this discussion comes up online is that people can have a million reasons why they don't want to share their images. And there can be, I have an abusive ex. I am just a very private person. I've had people who were literal secret agents.
Yeah.
Who we can't have a photo of.
There are so many reasons, especially today, why people don't want to be online. I don't post kids' full faces on my feeds anymore because I have too many followers across the board to do that. And I don't feel right about taking away a child's consent. Why would I take that away from an adult who can tell me that they don't want to be posted?
Right. Yeah. I don't understand and you've said as much as well, if your business can't survive not posting some of these images on social media or wherever, then you've got other problems to worry about.
Yeah. I understand newer photographers being a little upset about it because at that phase we need the portfolio.
Right.
But it's not going to be every wedding.
Yeah.
You still have other work to post.
Right. And I've always found that here's one of the things that you can do for people who are who really need the images for portfolio or whatever is to then talk to the client
Mhm.
and say, you know, like, again, listen to your clients. Why is it that you want these things to be private? Because I've had people who say, like, I don't want you to post anything. And then I start a conversation with them and say, well, why is it? And I'm like, well, I'm very self-conscious about
Yeah.
how I look. I'm like, okay, that's totally fine. And I said, if I sent you a group of images that I would really like to share, and you can then tell me no to all of them or yes to a few, is that okay? And they're like, sure. Like you have to just have to be approach them in a way that, and some people it's been like, sure, you can show images of the venue, but with nobody in
Mhm.
it, or you
Yeah.
can show details without, you know, people in them or things like that. Like if you were in that stage of your career where you really need that content or you need those images for your website or for whatever, and you have a client that says, I want to keep things private, like talk to them about,
Yeah.
don't be pushy about it, but like ask them the questions of like, what is it that you want to keep private? How can I make that work? And how can we like, is there any wiggle room somewhere?
Yeah.
And then don't force it down their throats when they say, no, I don't want to share anything. You can be like, fine, that's fine.
I will say that I will say most of my clients that don't want to be on my social media feeds are completely fine with being in my portfolio on my website.
It's a different thing.
Because it's a completely different thing because my website does not have as much traffic as my Instagram or TikTok account.
Right.
So, that is another conversation you can have with people like, oh, I won't post these on social media, but can I include 1 or 2 images in my portfolio or blog like 10 photos
Right.
that you approve? And that's
It's being considerate.
yeah, that I think being considerate to our clients is going to get us so much further in our careers versus bulldozing everyone to get what we want.
Yeah. I think that's Hey there, Nerdy Photo Crew. There's one thing you should never be caught without as a professional photographer, and that's a good contract, both for dealing with your clients and dealing with subcontractors that you may work with along the way. Be sure to head over to nerdyphotographer.com and go to our shop and find our contract templates for portrait photography, event photography, wedding photography, as well as dealing with second photographers, associate photographers, and any other subcontractors that you might have. Check it out and keep your business safe. Hey. And now for my favorite part of the show. What's that say? Useless information. This is always death. True or false? Elephants can jump higher than any other animal.
That's false
Do you know why it's false?
because they can't jump.
Exactly. They can't jump at all.
I know a lot of useless facts too.
I think we were meant to be friends, Brandi. We got the useless information like now, like it's vibing. So, Brandi, thank you for coming on the show. I really
Thank you for having me.
really appreciate it. Where can people find you if you want them to find you?
God, I don't know if I do at this point. On Instagram at brand.potter. If you do brand Potter without the period in it, that is my personal account, and I won't let you follow me. So
I get that
brand.potter is my business, and then on TikTok from.moonlight, and then brandy-potter.com.
Awesome. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome to come back.
I would love to.
We'll have to find another topic to discuss.
And by then we'll have the studio set up so I can record without dogs.
But
Which would be great.
Then the baby, though.
He'll be fine.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed my talk with Brandi Potter. You can get all of Brandi's links in the episode notes. Be sure to head there and give her a follow. And while you're adding folks on socials, you should follow along with the Nerdy Photographer on the various social media platforms: Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Reddit, and now Blue Sky. Yes, we traded the bluebird for the blue butterfly at The Nerdy Photo. All one word, no underscores, dots, or dashes, at The nerdy photo. Feel free to tell us what you think about this or any other episode we've put out. Leave your photography related questions or tell us what topics you would like to hear covered on the podcast in future episodes. If you truly want to be a part of the nerdy photo crew, you can also leave us a review and tell at least one friend about the show. Then you get an honorary membership. But if you don't leave the review, how am I supposed to know that you want it? Just saying. Yeah. We're going. Don't get your motivators in a bunch. Until next time, everybody, stay safe and stay nerdy.
Who's that coming back to town? You better start listening. Who's your heart been beating about? You better listen.